All right, everybody, thank you so much for jumping on our call. These Zoom calls, like I mentioned, are intended to be short and really specific to things that are going on in the market, which are things I call opportunities. I know things are a little bit different than what we've seen before, but every time we have some type of a shift in the market, I believe that opportunities present themselves. So this is one example that's really helping right now with the buyers, and the purpose of having a class about it is so we can start a kind of a language that sounds maybe more similar to what the other one is saying, not being too specific, but not being afraid to, maybe not being too specific to the buyers to where we're making anything that sounds like a guarantee or quoting things that are like maybe not possible, but being familiar. So thank you again. Your professionalism is remarkable and it inspires me. So, all right, here we go, guys. Today we're going to talk about buy down strategies. The definition of a buy down is a temporary interest rate and payment reduction for the first 1 to 3 years of the mortgage loan. Okay, now that's a mouthful, but that's where we're going to start with this, and we're going to unpack it from here. Sales price reductions versus rate buy downs. This is something that really prompted me to want to teach this class again, because we've talked about rate buy downs, but then sometimes I'll see a contract come in where we've actually taken money off the sales price instead of asking for seller concessions. So we're going to unpack what is the difference and what is the difference maker as well. Hello, Russ. It's good to see you this morning. So we're just getting started. We're going to unpack sales price reductions versus rate buy downs. A lot of times we're seeing people taking money off the sales prices, and really what they could really use is seller concessions. So for every $1,000 we take off the sales price, it saves the client $6 a month. Okay, so I want you to think about what is your average sales price. If that's $400,000, then that's $1,000 is saving them $6 a month. Okay, so not a whole lot, but if we're talking about 1% of that sales price, which is $4,000, let's say the seller takes $4,000 off the sales price, that's going to save the buyer $24 a month. Okay, so that's a good rule of thumb. Now, the seller's concessions can actually make the payment much more affordable to the buyer, and that's what we're here to talk about. This is a lot of information on one screen. We're going to touch on it right now, and then we're going to wrap back around to it at the end and look at the screen again. But when your clients are in consultations with me, this is what I'm showing them, okay? This is just a screenshot of a process that I'm taking them through to identify what types of loans they qualify for, or if there's a particular house that they're interested in and they want to see some ideas on how to maybe negotiate. This is called Mortgage Coach Edge. I've used it for 9 years, and I've literally done thousands of these, it feels like. Maybe not that many, but I've got a lot of experience in using this simple little tool to kind of break it down. This particular buyer, I noticed that he had reduced the sales price by $5,000, and so the sales price was $425 with no seller concessions. Okay. Now, when talking to them, I was like, okay, well, if you reduced it by $5,000, I know we don't want to have to go back and ask for things, but isn't $430 with $5,000 seller's concession the same as $425? So what we did in this scenario is we said, okay, well, if we were to use the $5,000 and just do a very simple 1-0 buy down, okay, there's this very simple buy down, then, what would that look like? And then, of course, you might have somebody that's like not so concerned about the payment, but also maybe concerned about the cash to close. So what if we applied the cash to close instead of applying it to the buy down that's built in now? Maybe we apply it to the bottom line closing cost, okay? So now that we know what we're doing here, If we are at 425 with no seller concessions, that buyer's monthly payment at a 6.625% interest rate is $34.50. If they do the buy down for just the 1.0 buy down, we're going to talk about this in just a second, but to kind of give you a little perspective, that is 0.78% of the loan amount. Remember when we talked about what $4,000 does to the monthly payment when we take $4,000 off the sales price? It saves them $24 a month. If we were to use the less than 1% seller concession and we apply it to the buy down, and there's also just a little bit left over too, because we're talking about $5,000 here, that's a little bit more than 1%, okay? Then this is our savings, okay? So I want y'all to really kind of look at that. $200 a month could really help a deal stick, come together, make the buyer feel like they're not just getting the short end of the stick because the interest rate is higher, but a very, very simple getting $5,000 on $430,000 is saving them $200 a month. If they applied it to the cash to close, then their cash to close would only be lower by less than $5,000, because we also have raised the sales price up by $5,000. So we've kept that into consideration. But it's only $200, but I'm using this as an example because this is the least amount you would need to buy into. Well, actually, this is a little bit more because this is $5,000. So this is a 1.0 buy down, using what's left of the 1.0 buy down to actually apply it to the total cash to close, to give them not only a better payment, but also give them a better cash to close. There are two things that they want to know from me at all times. What's my monthly payment? What's my cash to close? This is a win-win. Okay. So that's why I wanted to kind of show you a real live kind of scenario, because in this case, the buyer got really cold feet. They got really cold feet, and then we had to kind of pull them back in and bring them back around. And I thought, I probably could have maybe done a little bit better job working with the agent, hence this class. So that way we know, okay, you know what, there are some things we can do, maybe even ask for more and make a bigger splash. Now, the thing about asking for seller concessions is we got to know that we can't just ask for an unlimited amount of seller concessions. I can put seller concessions to good use, and you'll see why in just a second as you start looking at the different options and the cost. But not every loan type will allow for, the same type of seller concession. So same buyer, but different loan types, right? Or similar situation, but the buyer this time around has a different loan type. So it is not so easy for you to just remember and memorize all these things. I do understand and recognize that you need a partner in this. So these are the things I'm looking at as I'm deciding who I'm going to talk to about a buy down and who I'm not going to talk to about a buy down, and how much of a buy down do we need, or how much seller concessions should we really be applying to just the bottom line and not talk about a buy down. Okay, because sometimes we just don't have enough to do it all. And we have to identify what's most important to them, the monthly payment or the cash to close. So the max seller concessions for each loan type change based on the loan type. If you're doing an FHA loan, you can always get 6%, up to 6%. Now that can be quite a bit of money. So if you're at $350,000, then 6% is $21,000. We don't maybe need $21,000, but you can see that with FHA, there's a whole lot that we can do with that. Okay, we can actually probably not only do a buy down, but make it to where the seller doesn't, or the buyer doesn't bring anything except their 3.5% down payment. So sometimes it makes sense, swing all the way for the fence, because now people that maybe were not able to buy before are more comfortably able to buy now. But 6%, obviously, as you can see, is one of the higher amounts that you can get FHA, allowing for 6%. USDA allows for 6%. We don't all do a lot of USDA deals together, you know, but it's not to say that that couldn't be an option. That's a rural housing loan. VA allows for 4%. And then I want you to look at your conventional, okay? Now take investment property out of it. You can't do a buy down on an investment property. That's not allowed, okay? But you could get 2% to be applied towards the closing cost, okay? But if your client is putting just the typical 3 to 5 to 10% down right here, so these are more of our first-time home buyers, they can only get 3%. That's it. Okay, that is a lot different than what we were seeing at the 21,000. Half that. Okay, that's what they're able to get. If they put more than 10% down, now they can get up to 6%, and now it's the same as FHA. And then if you put 25% down, you can get up to 9%. Now, I would really love to see what all we could do with 9%. Like, that sounds super cool. Like, we could buy somebody into a rate that they will never refinance out of. Let's be honest. Like, I can use all of 6%. 9% may be more than what I even really need, because you got to remember, you can't get so much credit from a seller that the buyer's not bringing their own down payment to closing. Okay, they always have to bring their own down payment to closing. So again, I don't expect you to remember all this, but just kind of some indicators, you know, am I putting this deal together right? And I'm going to send this out to you too as a little cheat sheet. But let's kind of talk about when a seller's paying 1 to 4.5% of the loan amount as a seller concession, what can we do with that? What does that look like? So the one that costs the most amount of money is a 3-2-1 buy down. Okay, this cost is 4.5%. So if we have a client that is doing conventional and putting under 10% down, they cannot do this program. Okay, the reason why they can't do the program is because the most that they could get from the seller was only 3%, and this one cost 4.585%. So it's not that I want you to have to speak into these things so specifically, because as you can see, it'd be easy to get boxed in if we tell a client something and then, you know, we can't do it. But I'm also very careful of what I tell them and how I communicate this with them, because I don't want to load them up going into the market thinking they're going to get $21,000 of seller concession. So don't worry, I'm not telling them that. But you can see where in this strategy, the interest rate, and I used 7% because when I put this together, actually was back when all this had happened in September, and you were really starting to see, you know, interest rates above 7%. But at 7%, that first year, the interest rate dropped to 4%. So if we're at 6.6 right now, that interest rate drops to 3.6. Okay. So that monthly payment is $657 less, not $200, $657 less per month. Now, I started with the most extreme because we all love the 657 savings. Like, I love that. I would love to talk about that all the time. But it's probably unlikely that you're going to get, you know, 4.5% every time, or even ever. Like, I don't know. It depends on how the house is priced, right? Or if there's multiple offers. So love the savings here, but I also want you to notice that it changes for 3 years. So it started at 4% the first 12 months. It went to 5% the second 12 months. It went to 6% on the third year, and it stayed at 6% indefinitely. Like, that's where it stayed. It stayed for the rest of the term. And if you look at the savings, the first year it's $657. The second year it's $449 savings per month. And then the third year is kind of what we were talking about a second ago. That savings is $230. So if you take and you multiply that over the 12-month period, that's $7,800 that the buyer is saving now in their monthly payment over that 12-month period of time. And you'll notice that it's going down, but as you go across and you add them, that's how we're getting the 4.5%, because it really is a savings of $16,049.04. So what happens to that money when the buyer closes, excuse me, on the loan? That money is put into an escrow account, and there is a form that is signed at closing to say that that is what is happening. Okay, so the money is put in an escrow account, and if they choose to participate in this program over the next 3 years, then it just follows just like it's indicated here, and this is how it's going to play out. But let's just say that interest rates do come down to 5 and they stay there for the long term, then, you know, maybe within that, after that first year and we're going into the second year, maybe we need to refinance that interest rate. So we're not actually amortizing back up to the 6%. Maybe we go ahead and refinance. Whatever money is left over in that escrow account, they do not lose it. That money is used as a principal reduction to their loan amount. So when we go to refinance, whatever's left over, if we're 1 year into this and we have $9,000 left over, the $9,000 will go towards the loan amount to bring it down. And in some cases, then that might, you know, help people get out of mortgage insurance, help them definitely with better interest rate pricing because their loan to value will be better, but they don't lose it. The other thing I have to tell you is that we cannot qualify people based on these lower interest rates. It's just like an ARM, an adjustable rate mortgage. We haven't seen a lot of those in a long, long time. But we have to actually qualify people with the rate that's fully amortized, the 6%. So if people are having a hard time qualifying for a particular sales price, we cannot use this to get them to a higher purchasing price. Does that make sense? So again, here are savings for the first, second, and third year. This is the most expensive one, but now we move into a 2-1 buy down. And I hear a lot of you talk about 2-1 buy downs. 2-1 buy downs are 2.3%. Okay, so 2.3%. Again, you don't have to memorize this, but the real question is, what type of loan is our client doing? What's the maximum seller concessions they can get? So something we want to be really like a lot better at doing for you is when you go into Flowify and you pull your own pre-approval letters, like so many of you do in our system, there is a box in there that says the max seller concessions. So we're going to make sure that that box is filled out for you, so that way you know kind of the perimeter. And as far as talking to them about which option, I think it has to be a case-by-case basis. You know what I mean? It needs to be specific to that property and what you feel like you can probably negotiate out of the seller. So don't feel like you should not reach out to me and help, you know, real quick, put a quick plan together. I tend to not even talk about this one. This brings the interest rate down by 1% for 2 years. I believe we're going to be refinancing in the next 12 months. So I'm really not talking about this a whole lot, okay? And the cost of it is 2.3%. So I feel like I can do similarly, and this is kind of the same. Actually, this one here is bringing it down by 2%, pardon me. 2-1 brings it down by 2%. So the first year there is a bigger savings, okay? The second year follows suit just like we talked about a moment ago. So these savings are still the same, but they are adjusting from the first year to the second year. This one does not adjust from the first to the second year. This is the one I'm not really talking a lot about because I feel like we're going to be refinancing anyway. And so if we can put a strategy together and it makes sense, then great, we have the money. But really what I'm talking to people about, guys, is I'm talking to them about how they can get less than 1% of their loan amount as a seller concession to get their interest rate down by 1%. Okay. because you have to remember, they're asking me these questions, right? Like up front at consultation. If I'm showing them this, I want you to know I am talking about this with them, but I'm not asking for the max seller concessions. But if you could get the max seller concessions, you can imagine now how much more we can do and how much more effective it can be for the client. Okay, I'm going to stop for just a second because I've got some chats going on here. Yes, I will email you this class. Awesome, guys. Okay. So with the 3-2-1 buy down after the third year, the interest rate stays at the 1% buy down amount. No, the interest rate actually ends up going back to that 7%. Nothing ever stays lower than what it was originated at. Okay, such a great question. Thank you for asking. They're always based on the loan amount. Again, there's no quiz to this for you. There's no way you can really master this, which is why we needed to get on a class about it, because hopefully you'll find some value in knowing the kind of conversations we're having, but also just the power in asking for the concessions over asking for the sales price to be reduced. So the client can do temporary rate buy downs when it's owner occupied. So second homes actually do apply, but not investment properties because they're not owner occupied. Conventional, VA, FHA, and USDA. So remember, there's a slide in here that tells us how much the maximum could get. So you know that whatever you can get in between those numbers, then you're not going to be wasting any of it or asking for something that you just simply can't have. And then I wanted to kind of come back around to this just one more time, and that is just showing the power of the $5,000. So we're saving, this is just remember, this is the one that cost, less than 1% of the loan amount, okay? So think about when you're filling out your contract, your sales prices are higher than my loan amounts. People are putting money down. So of the loan amount, people are getting these buy downs, and there's even a little bit of extra money left over. So I want you to see that the cash to close is less and the monthly payment is less. Again, win-win for the buyer, right? So I'm going to pause here because I promised to keep this to 25 minutes and I have 3 minutes left. That's a win. And I just want to talk to you real quick and hear any feedback that you have, questions you have. I'm checking the chat box. Anybody want to unmute and ask a question? I know you're not shy people.
I have a question, Selena.
Okay.
Because I'm not a shy person.
No, you're not.
I'm just curious how much you think these are going to continue as we see the market changing now that we're seeing the interest rates come down a little and we're getting back into some multiple offer type situations. Like, are you thinking that these kind of seller concessions are only going to last for a little while longer, or what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's the perfect question to be asking. I'm going to dig into that. I'm going to show you what I think about it and the things you guys really need to know that your competition does not know. I think having a class like this was a little bit challenging for me to market, because what I want to say is like, alert, alert, alert. Like there's more to the story that you guys need to know. And it's an ongoing changing market in mortgage. So to answer that question, let's move on and look. This is February the 6th right here. I just want you to see how, we got really comfortable. This is the bond market, by the way, guys. Sorry. Actually, this is the 10-year treasury, pardon me. The 10-year treasury and the bond market follow each other. So I don't want to give you a tutorial too much about it, but I just want you to see that between January, as the interest rates started to come down during the holidays, between January and February, things weren't changing very much. So you were right, India, the rate had come down. But that's not what's happening right now. Rates have, ever since February 6th, have done nothing but shoot straight up, and we are back to the high sixes again. So that's happening. So people are still really rubbed the wrong way about payments. That's not going to change itself. In fact, they don't believe it's going to change itself till the end of the year. So I have to tell you, we're in this together, because if you were on my forecast call, you know that this data is changing month over month. But the problem is that the feds are still giving rate hikes. And that lag effect for shelter that we talked about with inflation, month over month, it will improve. But for now, the feds are talking about needing to raise the rate hike, do more rate hikes. And they're saying that the economy can support it. So there's an argument to be had about that, and they don't pay me enough money to figure that out. But if you want to have a conversation, we can have it offline. But the point is that it's a tough economy, okay? And this leads me to my next point. I'm having another class, okay? So I'm going to have another class. There's my timer. Tina would be so proud of me that I set a timer. I'm going to have another class to unpack this a little bit more, because I can't leave you hanging on this class without talking about this, okay? FHA has had some changes, reducing their mortgage insurance. We'll talk about that on the next class. Conventional, we're going to talk about right now. VA's had some changes too. And so these are the things that you really see a lot of. Lenders are like really kind of shooting that out there at you like bullets, but like, what does it all mean? We're going to talk about that. But look at this right here. And there's a couple of you that are on this call that I've looked at your own personal loans. You've thought about buying investment property, and you've thought about buying second homes. There is money that's built in that Fannie Mae, this is Fannie Mae, this is all lenders. There are adjusters that are built in now to pricing. Now some of them have been there. So I just want you to look like at the investment properties. If you're putting 20% down, if you're putting 20% down, there's 3.375% built in. It was 2. It's gone up. Okay. Look at our young buyer that is putting 5% down and qualifying for conventional, and they're getting that, they're maybe getting maybe a better mortgage insurance premium, which again, that's changing. because I don't know if I would keep somebody in a conventional loan or put them in an FHA, to be frank with you. When our market gets really specific about cutting loans out of the market, that's going to cut buyers out of the market. If you are at a 699 credit score and you're putting 5% down, you have an extra cost. If you're putting which one of these is having an extra cost, but let's just say that you're at 679 and you're putting 25% down or 20% down, there's an added cost in here at 1.875%. That could be over $9,000 for the buyer. And it's really kind of bizarro, because you would think that people would have to pay less in cost when they put 20% down. But look at this. If you put 15% down, there's an added cost of the rate of 1.5%. But if you put 20% down, the cost goes up to 1.875. This is what every lender in America is thinking about right now. So when we're thinking about what's going on in the market, we're like, whoa, what is about to happen? What is about to happen is interest rates are going to feel like they're going up, because people won't want to have to pay for cost. And these costs are buried in there. You can't get them out. They're the same for everybody, and they're in there. So again, if you have somebody that's under a 700 credit score and they're putting more than 15% down, they have a cost of 1.875%. So if you are at 400,000 and you have a cost of 1.875%, that's $7,500. If somebody is selling a home and buying another one, they probably have some money that they can use to do that. If they're trying to save their own money, you can imagine this is going to be a surprise to them. So how do we get away from asking seller for concessions? I don't know. But I assure you that this is going to affect everybody. So I don't think you're going to have as many multiple offers as you think. So I'm not trying to be the bearer of bad news, just education and being as you know, studious as I can about what is going on and how to forecast what I think is going to happen. It's a two-way conversation. I need to hear from you too. But this is not really what people are talking about right now. So I just want to let you know that there have always been, since March of last year, Fannie Mae did put in 2% of extra cost, 2% of the loan amount, extra cost in for second homes and investment properties to slow that down. And did it slow down? It did. How many people are not coming here buying second homes right now? But they were before. So it did change the pattern and the behavior. Why are they doing this? Would y'all like to know why they're doing this? Why are they doing this? They are doing this because Fannie Mae buys loans. They buy bundles of loans, lots of loans, and they sell them on the secondary market. Lenders have to sell a portion of their portfolio. They can't just keep it all and keep an interest rate at, you know, these interest rates in the 3% are like not really helping make anyone any money. And it's tying up a lot of liquidity on their balance sheet, you know, and assets. And so, yes, lenders do sell loans. Fannie Mae buys loans. Fannie Mae wants to know what they're buying. So this is a grading card. That's what it is. It's a grading card that comes with benefits of having better credit and benefits of having the right strategy. And for me, it's a cheat sheet because I'm looking at it going, I've really been studying it, and it helps me to see matrix like this versus just running pricing as I have loans structured. So I might be telling people to do things a little differently because I'm looking at ways to save them money. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So India, that was a fantastic question. Thank you for teeing me up. That's really what I wanted to share with you guys when I wanted to give you a market update. So that like knocked that piece out of the park for me, because that was, you know, kind of letting you know this is what loan officers are having to sort through right now. And I think it will affect the market. Now, these things are going into effect in April. So, you know, we've got about a month to kind of figure some of these things out. So it might be that you're really seeing it more towards, you know, spring and summer. Okay. Any questions about this? Have y'all seen, maybe like take yourselves off mute. Let me know. Have you heard anything about this? No?
I've heard briefly about the FHA amount, you know, going down, lowering your payment.
Okay, yes.
How much is it going down?
That's what I want to tell you too, is that those are things that are good to know, but these are a little bit harder conversations to have with you. I could send you something. I'm sure you got something from me that said that MI was changing or you know, funding fee was changing, but really what does it mean in the grand scheme of things of how we're helping people save money and feel like they're empowered to make good decisions to buy in this kind of a market that we're in. So we'll talk about this all again, okay? And we'll go through the changes and things because I know you've seen it, but really this was the one that was a real sticking point for me. And can you see why?